What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Healthspan Academy. I'm your host, Craig Shearhart, and joining me today is Laurent Dubreuil, who is Olympic medalist coming off fresh off a silver medal in the Olympics. He was a 2015 World Cup medalist, 2018 also qualified for the Olympics in the 500 and 1,000 meter skate. He was a 2021 world champion and just coming off a silver medal in the 1,000 meter this year in Beijing, 2022, and just missed the podium in the 500 as well by just a smidgen. Laurent, congrats on the performance, and thanks for joining me today, man.
Thank you very much, Craig. It's a pleasure to be here.
Cool. I want to dive into this. I know you've been skating like since you pretty much you're really young. What was athletics like for you growing up?
My parents had a rule at our house, which was to sign up for a sport in the summer and the winter, and it didn't matter what it was, as long as we were active and moving around and playing outside and.
Cool.
Playing team sport and individual sports. So for me, it was always skating in the winter because that's what I liked the most. But in the summer, I played, tennis. I ran track and field, soccer for 8 years. Played a lot of basketball. So it's just like trying different things and trying to figure out what was most, what suited me most.
Cool. And obviously, skating ended up being your jam. Like, have you always been more of a power kind of athlete that like kind of glycolytic, kind of that hybrid sort of between those 10-second sprints and aerobic? Has that always kind of been your jam?
I've always been, more of a sprinter. Yeah. Like when you're 10 years old, like everybody's, exactly. So like you do everything right, but pretty clear. Pretty soon it was clear that I was way more of a sprinter, and that was true. And track and field, and I could jump high, but I. Playing basketball, but I would get tired throughout the game, and skating as well. So it was always like you try to do everything for as long as you can, but at some point you figure out that you're much better at sprints, and then that's what you train for. Yeah,
you just loaded for those fast twitch fiber movements, right? Was it hockey first for you? Did you just go straight into speed skating, or how did that pan out?
No, I've never played hockey. I played a lot of hockey for fun, but both my parents went to the Olympics as well in speed skating.
Yeah. So they kind of nudged you in that direction. Be like, you got some pretty good genes. You could probably do pretty well here.
Yeah, I don't think they did it on purpose, honestly. I think they just wanted me to skate, and I just loved skating. And I think I just had to keep doing it. So they just signed me up for it. But
cool. But you still had the freedom to kind of follow your passion, right?
Absolutely. If I like my sister, both my sister and brother both skated when they were younger as well. And at some point, my sister didn't want to do it anymore. And my parents were like, well, no problem. Just sign up for something else, like just be active. And
that's awesome.
So that's why the passion is still going strong at 29 years old right now for me, is because they never forced it upon me, and it just allowed it to grow naturally. And now I love it more than anything in the world, probably.
That's awesome. So like I kind of alluded to early on, you had success even like as a junior. Was there a turning point where like just the times got like really competitive? Or was there a moment when you decided you could probably make a run and a career aspect out of this?
I mean, I was always amongst the few like best skaters of my age class growing up in Canada. Like at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. So I guess I was always kind of talented skating, but there's not a lot of correlation between who's good at 7 years old and who ends up being good at 25, right? So it doesn't mean that much. But after puberty, like when you grow and you that's more accurate reflection of what you could potentially accomplish later. So I guess when I became a teenager, like getting results still, it was pretty clear I was probably talented enough to make a career out of it. And that's when I gradually got more and more serious around like 14, 15, 16 years old.
Cool. Well, obviously it's panned out pretty well. Let's talk about that Olympic experience. Two probably really drastic experiences, not only kind of his first time through in 2018, but also the world climate. And then, so talk about that first experience and kind of what are the highlights for you or lowlights? What are the first images to pop up when you think 2018?
2018 was a tough season for me. I'd won a few international medals in the few years before, and I started the year with that's in November 2017, like the 17-18 season.
Mm-hmm.
First World Cup of the year, I won the 500, my best event. And after that, I got sick, injured myself, like really rough 2-3 months. And I showed up at the games with absolutely no chance of medaling.
That's tough.
It's tough because you train the whole summer and you feel good, and then you perform early in the season, and then for so many reasons it just goes it just goes bad, and then you have to skate there, but you feel like a tourist more than an actual competitor. So I tried to learn and figure out what the games were all about, so that the next time I would at least have that experience for me. But the skating part was rough, because I was maybe at the worst I've been the last almost 10 years.
Oh, that's brutal. Fair enough. But at least you kind of take those lessons, right? And then get those first kind of race jitters, all that stuff out of the way. And then did you feel more mentally prepared going into 2022?
More mentally prepared, more, physically and technically sharp as well. This is the best season of my career. I'm at the absolute peak of my skating I've ever been. And so it was like coming in, I knew I had really good medal chances in 2 races, whereas 2018, I knew I had absolutely 0 medal chances. And just the mindset, it's a lot more fun to actually compete. More pressure, but pressure is, that's what, motivates me. And that's what makes me feel alive in skating as well. I'll miss that pressure, even though sometimes, it doesn't work out and it's tough to accept. But when it does work out, the feeling of accomplishment is tough to get anywhere else in life for us. So it's something I'll miss when I'll retire. But it is more pressure, but it's very enjoyable when you actually make it then.
You kind of have to. I mean, if you're going pro and this is your jam, you need to thrive in pressure moments. Like I feel like this isn't probably not the right career choice if you don't deal with pressure that well. I want to talk a little bit about the technical aspect of this, because it's like, I think people like maybe you've skated a little bit, but it's different with the longer skates. Like when you are in a race, the key points I feel like just as a spectator is like the start and the turns and the finish. Are those like the points you pay most attention to, or what's going on technically? What's the things that go well in a race versus that can kind of cost it for you?
The trick or the goal is to come into the race skating so good that you don't have to think about most of your skating, it's muscle memory. Exactly. And if you come into the race and there's like 3 or 4 technical points which you really don't master or own on your skating right now, then it's going to be really tough, because thinking about so many things at the same time is not going to work out very well. So basically for me, I keep it as simple as possible on race day, but it's work. It's really hard work to, like, day in, day out, to actually get to that point for when the race is happening. So just try to, like you said, for me, starts are crucial. Sprint events, like if you lose some time on the start, you're never going to make it back. It's not
you're talking hundreds of a second.
Exactly. So I try to keep the forward lean on the start, and after that it's all about angles, like the angle of the blade on the ice. Like the more lean you create before you push, the more the power goes to the side and downwards, and that's what makes you go fast. And you need to push to the side and stay low. And if you skate well, then it's easy. If you don't skate well, then it seems almost impossible to do it.
Fair enough. You just kind of on that automatic high, or you're just flying. That's amazing. Let's talk about the training for that skill, because we talked a little bit of fast twitch. I'm sure you're doing a lot of explosiveness in your training. So are you doing a lot of barbell work, Olympic lifts, plyometrics, like high intense interval stuff, or what does your training look like typical?
Kind of like what you just said. I just don't do Olympic lifts because my back doesn't handle them very well. I've had back issues all my life. But I do like squat jumps instead. So like still like loaded jumps, loaded explosive movements.
Cool.
To kind of, like it's works kind of the same things in the same way. And then obviously like strength work also, squatting or deadlift on the leg press, and as well lots of jumps, and then some intervals, but they're very complementary in my program. Like the focus is really about like pure power, explosiveness, some track and field sprints in the summer to introduce skating starts in the winter.
Right.
And then once we get closer to races, then we're going to do also like some speed endurance kind of thing because 1,000 meters is still over a minute of effort. So, and we start all out. So it ends up being really, really tough. And you want to try to limit the die. It's more like, like a 400 meter runner, like you can run fast. It's good, but you need also to be able to finish strong. So it's a bit like that for 1,000 as well.
Yeah, that's actually what I was just going to ask, because I've done a 400. I've never done 1,000 meter skate, but it's the last 300 meters you're burning, but the last 100 meters you're praying for death. Does that ever get better? Is it going kind of mentally, or are you still feeling that absolute burn, like it grinding? Like part of you is like, why am I doing this when you're finishing a race?
No, it does not get better. Unfortunately, like you get better at it, but then you just go faster and it hurts just as much. And
you just get used to the hurt.
You just get used to, you get used to the hurt, and you get used to attacking your race and not being scared, even though like it's like you accept that it's going to hurt and it doesn't scare you anymore. Yeah, it's more like that. So it doesn't hurt less, but you're just better at dealing with it.
Right. Fair enough. Do you do a lot of, so the skating itself is one of those kind of like, it's a very unique movement, right? And you got like that lateral aspect to it. It's also bilateral. Do you do a lot of unilateral training as well?
Yes, but the big lifts we do are bilateral, but jumps we're going to do mostly, or at least like a good portion of it, unilateral. Yeah. And if we do we're going to do some unilateral stuff in the weight room as well, whether like step ups with the barbell or leg press, but like our main lifts are always going to be squat or deadlift, or when we do upper body, we don't do that much, but maybe bench press. So because when we're skating, it's always unilateral, right? So like most of what I do, if you include the skating, is unilateral, and it's just sometimes I think to develop strength, like bilateral, where you're more stable, you can focus 100% on developing strength or power instead of balancing yourself. So the big lifts like this, and then some complementary work on one leg, and skating obviously on one leg the whole time. Yeah,
cool. That's I think like when you say you've had back history, that kind of like blows my mind, because you think like low back, and often you have like imbalances, right? Just because like the whole SI tends to shift and stuff like that. Is that something you're really keen to in your training? Is like strength and balances, kind of correcting those?
Yeah, absolutely. We really try to stay as balanced as possible, while understanding that we're not going to be perfectly balanced. Yeah. Because like, who is really in life? Yeah. Like everybody's got to, for one. And also we always turn to the left, right? So like, for sure, we're going to end up working a bit different. Like in the straightaway, like you could, put a mirror in the middle, and both sides would look the same. Yeah. But turning left all the time, like I cannot speed skate turning right. Like it's not a thing. We don't do it. Our blades are bent for us to turn left. Our technique, we've learned it this way. So like, obviously, if you put me on hockey skates, I can kind of, cross over to the right.
You'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I know how to do it, but I'm not nowhere near as good at and comfortable doing it as turning left. So for sure, there's some imbalances, but we try to, keep those under control, so it doesn't, lead to more injuries. Yeah,
fair enough. What are the main? So now, as a like more mature athlete, and I'm sure you've worked with a range of coaches over the years, what are the main differences in your training now compared to like the early years? Is it like more training volume? Is it more like conscious active recovery? Is it more rest? Or what are the pieces you're kind of more in tune with now?
Yeah, mostly more rest and more, focus on recovery, like you said. I figured out that probably for the first like half of my senior career, I was training just too much, logging too many hours, and like feeling that the more is better, which is not true. It's very rarely true, and for sprinters it's probably never true, because it would just lead me to being tired all the time and showing up at those crucial trainings where you want to get stronger and more explosive, and you're missing out on the whole adaptive period, right? Your muscles need that time in between sessions to actually get stronger. Exactly. And I would just show up there and be, like sluggish in training and also not as focused because you're tired, and it just, I wouldn't get, like you said, the adaptations from the training because of it. And I would just basically like kind of dig my own grave throughout the summer and you never improve. And the last 3 years, partly because I was figuring that out on myself, and also partly because my daughter was born 3 years ago, or like two and 2/3 years ago. Like she's gonna be 3 this summer, and so I was also not wanting to train, like 8 hours every day and be like never home to see my daughter grow up. So, but it ended up, instead of making me slower, which I was kind of afraid it would do, ended up making me faster to be able to take afternoons off and wait until I feel good to train again, and that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Just made me faster and happier in life, I guess.
That's sweet. Cool. So we kind of alluded to family stuff and going on, and this is like, man, this is when you make this a job, this is like, you got to be all in, obviously, if you get to the level you're at. What is your typical training, like a snapshot in the day, your training volume? But you mentioned like 8 hours. Is that like a training window for you? And then your free time, your family time, your downtime. How do you find time for all that stuff, man? Being a dad, the whole bit.
Yeah. Well, 8 hours was more like what we would do, or maybe 8 was a particularly big day, but that's what we do maybe earlier in my career when I would train twice every day, no question about it. But now it's mostly, I very rarely train twice a day anymore, which I was so used to doing it that it seems crazy to say, but I'm much faster skater than I used to be when I did train twice every day. So it's not about being lazy, it's about doing the right things, right? And basically I'm going to get up in the morning and have breakfast, and then probably like play with my daughter for like half an hour before actually leaving for training, just like because I try to eat a couple hours before, so I get up at least 2.5 hours before training. Then I'm gonna go to training and train the whole rest of morning, maybe I don't know, 3 hours, maybe depending on what we do, 2.5 3 hours, and then basically come back, and my recovery kind of snack is actually going to be my lunch. I love training in the morning because you finish and you eat lunch right away after. And I just love and then after it's like some days I'm going to train twice, but that's very rare and only in the summer. Obviously when we get close to racing, there's more days off as well. But the afternoon is just, like I relax after lunch because that's when my daughter naps. And after that, just family time until the rest of the day. And it's actually my dream life right now. It's crazy awesome. How much I enjoy it. Yeah.
Sweet. Cool, man. Awesome. So you talked a little bit about snacking and nutrition. How dialed in is that? Are you measuring everything you're eating? Are you working with a nutrition coach, or have you done that in the past, or what is your general approach to nutrition?
My general approach is just try to eat well, but not stress too much about it. I think, especially when we train hard, we burn, we need to eat a lot of calories to refuel. For sure. And if you eat like healthy stuff and mostly good stuff, then you can, like, if you train as a job and you eat healthy, you can eat almost as much as you want because you're never, unless you eat like sugar the whole day, then you probably should watch that. But like if you eat mostly healthy stuff. And then also I realized that, like a season we train 11 months a year, right? So it's a long time. And if in July you're craving for a bag of chips and you don't allow yourself to eat it, then, every time it's just going to get harder and harder throughout the season to keep eating healthy. So I think you can eat treats or like sweets sometimes, or mostly, like I don't eat that much sugar, but like you can eat some if you want. It's more about moderation, like if a small piece of cake makes you very happy, then you should probably eat it, but just eat one, don't eat 5. So it's but if you don't eat it, then when you're gonna eat it and when you're gonna give in a few weeks, then you're gonna eat 5. It's better to eat one once in a while, you know.
Seriously. So probably gonna be a short Olympic career if you're crushing 5 pieces of cake.
Exactly.
Fair enough. Cool. Let's talk a little bit about that mobility recovery stuff. Because that's like the older I get, the more like zoned in I'm at, because I just don't like waking up in pain anymore. That's my new sport, is trying to wake up pain free. What does a typical recovery session look like for you? Is it mostly like passive stretching? Are you doing a bit of like self massage work? Are you doing a lot of body work done and physio and those pieces? Talk me through a little bit of that.
Yeah, obviously for me, the goal is always to try to manage my back and also my hips. Skating is really tough on the hips as well. So basically this year, what we did was after every weight session, I would get with my physio, my strength coach is also a physio. He's got both like university diploma. So it's actually the best because his programs are, it's not like two-person trying to coordinate stuff. He knows what my problems are and he knows how to take care of it in training and after.
Right.
So I would do my weight training, and obviously like I'm pretty strong. I'm not a power lifter by any means, but I load like a lot, I guess, for me. So after, my back is always kind of tense. So I would always get physio after every single weight training we did this year. I would get like half an hour to 45 minutes of just mostly just like relaxing and mobilizing the back and the hips after they kind of worked very hard. And basically it allowed us to stay on top of it instead of react when I'm hurting. It's like I was very rarely hurting because we'd take care of it before.
Right. Prehab is always better than a rehab.
Absolutely. And then of course at home I also do some mobility exercises. For me, like the skating position is a tough position to get into, and if your back and hips are not moving very well, then you're just not gonna get low enough in the skating position to skate as well as you should. So that's been our approach this year, and it's worked out. Like I've been injury free most of the season. The last couple of months have been a bit harder, but if I can delay my back hurting until like the last month or two of racing, then it's much better than in the past where I would hurt the whole summer and it would actually impede on my training. Like all my training went fine this summer.
It does not sound fun at all. training every day. Fair enough. Cool. So like the hot spots for you, like obviously the more we learn about sitting, the more we know it's like, it's not good for, especially because you're kind of in a hinge when you're performing. Is the hip flexor quad kind of your first go-to when you're trying to get something moving better? Or is that like where most of your tightness sits usually? Like you said, like sitting is bad, and skating, like, of course, like we're not standing. So it's kind of like being on the bike, right? It kind of shortens the hip flexor. So for sure, that's one of the things I'm going to get worked on or stretched most often. Because if not, just like, like everybody feels it, right? Like you sit too long, you get up and you're like, the back doesn't want to like extend or so. That's one of the problems we have to deal with all the time. Fair enough. Awesome. Let's talk about, disappointing catching COVID right before World Championships. Obviously that's a disappointment. What are the next big kind of milestones for you, Laurent, in the coming, in your career?
Yeah. Well, this weekend would have been one. Like you said, like I was very unlucky. I was first after one day of World Championship, and it's a 2-day combination. And I was first after one day. I was with quite a comfortable lead, and I was basically the only thing that could beat me was COVID. And not other skaters. So it's
brutal.
That was a tough thing to accept. Hopefully I'm recovered next week for the last competition of the season. It's the World Cup final in the Netherlands.
Nice.
So I'm doing a PCR every day to see all my values evolve. And if I'm recovered enough, like they will let me skate. I feel like I could skate right now. I feel like having just a cold kind of thing. I don't feel that bad. I was actually like, I had no symptoms when I got the first positive PCR. So I was very, very surprised and extremely disappointed. But so next week is World Cup final, the last racing of the season. It's very important races as well. Like this weekend was an opportunity to win the World Championship, which would have been really nice. But
that would have been nice.
But I won the 500 at the World Championship last year, so at least I've that already on my resume. But nice. I'm first right now in the World Cup standings in the 500 meters. So
that's amazing.
if I don't take part in races next week, I'm going to drop way down to probably 6th or 7th.
Right. Yeah.
So those are big races to actually win the overall classification, which is something I've never done. I've been second one year and third twice, second twice and third twice actually. So winning the overall classification is a goal I've had in my career.
Awesome.
And I'm basically just hoping to recover and be able to skate, because if so, then I should be able to get it. So
yeah, well, hopefully recovery goes well and you're back in the ice as soon as you can get out there. So
thank you.
So this has been kind of a nutty year, I think, for a couple of years, I guess now, almost 2 years into this pandemic thing. And as a father, it's probably tough. As an athlete, it's tough. I mean, the general public, just less socializing. As far as like health goes, where are your main priorities right now? What do your habits look like around that?
Well, obviously, like getting COVID at the wrong time would have been brutal.
Yeah.
Like this was the second worst timing possible for me. Worst would have been right before the Olympics or at the Olympics. But yeah, so it's, we've been trying to stay free of COVID as much as possible, but some things you just can't control. Like I caught COVID from, I have no idea where here, but people in Norway don't have, measures, or they don't mask anymore. So really? It could be anybody anywhere. Whereas, we try to stay safe, but like traveling as well, you're sitting beside somebody in the airplane for, exactly. You can't control everything. So to me, my approach to not go crazy this year has been to, try to be as safe as possible and then just hope for the best, because accepting that you're not going to be able to control everything just made it much easier to not worry about everything every day, just worry about what I can control and hope the rest will. And it's actually, it's for me having a kid at daycare, having my daughter being at daycare, my wife is a teacher. So it's two, like they both could have brought it for sure home. Yeah. True. And they still haven't got it. And I got it in Norway here. Man. So, but like, it was mostly about the month and a half before the Olympics where we really isolated ourselves, stayed home the whole time. No daycare for my daughter, no teaching for my wife, just because it was during the biggest wave we've had also, like in Quebec, right? And it was just too risky to get it before the Olympics. So it's just trying to be as safe as possible while knowing there's always a chance you're gonna get something, unfortunately. Yeah, that's wild. It puts into perspective, right? When your like biggest health priority is just staying away from people. That's nuts. It's too bad it panned out, but you got a good career ahead of you. Hopefully the rest of it pans out for you. Yeah, thanks. Awesome. Well, this has been an awesome chat, Laurent. Really appreciate the time. Is Instagram the best way for people to connect with you? Yeah, absolutely. Instagram. Okay. I got Twitter as well, but I don't post as much, but I read stuff there as well. But Instagram is where I'm most active. Cool. Well, we'll link to that in the show notes. Appreciate your time, man. And best of luck. Hope you feel better soon. Thank you very much, Craig. It was a pleasure. Have a good day. Cheers. You too. Well, thanks for tuning in for Healthspan Academy, guys. We'll see you next time. Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. This has been a fun project. We're growing in viewership every single week, and we obviously couldn't do that without you. So thank you for continuing to tune in. I really hope you're getting value out of the programming and the content. Just wanted to give you a heads up. I've been working on a book on health and longevity the last couple of years, been collaborating with my colleague, Dr. Dan Vitale, who's an expert in the field as well. And we've basically just kind of summarized the literature, some of the techniques that we found really useful in the world of biohacking, what our exercise regimen looks like, what's, cardio type stuff is going to help us live longer and healthier, mobility work, nutrition. We've covered the whole spectrum, everything that you can basically be in control of in your health and fitness kind of moving forward to help you live as healthily as possible for as long as possible. And it's available free for download. So if you click on the YouTube banner, you'll see a link to download the blueprint. It's also on our Instagram profile or on the website. You can click on 5pillarmethod.com/optimize to get your free copy of the book. And I hope you enjoy it. Hope you're keeping well. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.